Well, hello there, Hollywood Times viewers. We are so blessed, the Hollywood Times, to have the whole group of the 80s underground supergroup World Goes Round and their producer, Tommy. So we're going to let them introduce themselves and we're going to have an amazing conversation. Thank you for tuning in. Let's go, guys. Start off.
I guess I'm on the top here. I'll start. Can you hear me, by the way?
Yeah. I can hear you.
Good. Jeff Hull, musician, producer, writer. I play a little bit of everything in the band. Frankie?
One man band.
Frankie, go.
Me.
Yeah.
I'm Frank Musker, and I'm a songwriter primarily, and I do a bit of singing, usually backing up Elizabeth, who's an extraordinary singer, and very privileged to be back amongst all of my favorite crew of musicians, and very proud that our album is just about to come out on CD in Japan. Remember CDs? And vinyl on October the 8th, I think, on Viper Records. So all you vinyl enthusiasts, this is a record made for vinyl.
Okay, I'll go next. I'm Tommy Vicari. I'm basically an engineer, producer. I've known these people for about at least 10 years now.
And the rest.
You know, we did this right. We did this record a while back, but the music has kind of stood the test of time. So we decided to, you know, tweak it up a little bit, and it seems like it's getting some attention. So I'm really happy to be here, and we can, you know, talk about how it got done. You know, I mean, really, it was really kind of unique. And Marty can start it off with that after we introduce Elizabeth. You know.
Yeah, Elizabeth, to go.
Yeah.
I'm Elizabeth Lammers, and I'm providing backup vocals for Frank Musker, who's entirely too humble about it. But I do vocals on the album.
Writer.
And a writer. Yeah.
And a writer.
All right.
Thank you.
My name's Marty Walsh. I'm the guitarist in the band, so I did all the guitar tracks and wrote a few pieces.
I played acoustic guitar on one of the tracks.
Oh yeah. I noticed that. I noticed that you got that credit on the CD, man. You
yeah, exactly. You know.
Well, you know, you gotta do it.
You gotta fight for your credits in this business, you know.
Yeah, true.
Well, welcome to you all, Frank, Jeff, Elizabeth, Marty, and Tommy. We're so honored to have you. So Tommy or Marty, who's going to start it off? Let's talk about World Goes Round and how this all started.
Well, I think it started with Marty sent me a cassette. And so that's an interesting story. Why don't you start and then I'll pick it up from there, Marty.
Well, Tommy had contacted me through Facebook, I don't know, a few years ago now, maybe, and wondered if I had a copy of the World Goes Round stuff that we did, because we did the project and nothing came of it. So all these years later, he says, "Do you have a copy?" And I was looking for my DAT copy, and I couldn't find one, my digital audio tape copy, and so I guess I never got the mixes on DAT, but I had them on a cassette. So I spun them off. I spun a couple of songs off, and I'm listening to them from a cassette player that I bought on eBay, and I'm listening to them at my studio, and I go, "Wow, this stuff is really good," you know. So I just sent a couple of tracks over to Frank and to Tommy, and I hadn't spoken to Elizabeth or Jeff in years, you know. And I sent them these tracks. I says, "Hey, listen to these songs. These two songs are really great." And then it turned into, "Well, what else have you got?" And I got more, you know. And I basically just dropped them all from a cassette into my workstation. I did a little tweaky on them with, you know, get rid of some noise and things. And then I sent them off to Tommy, and Tommy, you take it from there.
Well, I was working and I got this email and it had these two songs on there. And I know Marty had been recording songs with his students, and they were doing really great jobs of Steely Dan records and classic records. And I said, "Well, you know, Marty, this sounds really great. Did you re-record this?" He says, "No, this is your mix from 30 years ago on a cassette." And so I said, wow, I didn't know that I was even that good then. But anyway, so then I took it and I put it into Pro Tools, and we EQ'd it and compressed it. Jeff was with me, and we kind of, turned it up, and so we had five. What did we have? We had about 4 songs. We had 4 or 5.
5 or 6, actually, I think.
Okay, so we had 6 songs. Not enough for an LP or a long playing record for those of you that don't know what that is. But anyway, we needed 4 more songs, and so we took we completed some songs that we didn't finish. And it is true, we did shop this music, and really nobody responded to it, which is not unusual for the record business, especially if you watched the VMAs last night. But anyway, yeah, so Jeff and I went into the studio and we finished 4 songs, and that's what's being released right now. So of course, after it was finished, COVID happened, and by the way, I had 3 projects, 3 major motion pictures that canceled during COVID. So I actually had the time to do something rather than sit in front of
That
the
was the miracle, because the miracle has always been trying to get the 4 of us together, 5 of us together in a room so we can work, and COVID, as bad as it is and as tragic as it is, for us was an incredible blessing, because it meant that we could finish what we started in 1989, So the album kind of exists in 2 time frames. There's the original tracks, which 5 of which have not been touched at all, apart from a bit of mastering and EQing. And the other 5 are songs which were in the mix at the time. We had a studio, Elizabeth and I had a studio in my house in Laurel Canyon, and it was just a hive of activity and creativity. There were people coming and going all the time. It was mayhem, but it was one of the most creative time, maybe the most creative time of my life, And all these great songs were popping out here, there, and everywhere. And we were kind of recording, regardless of the music business, the A&R people, the record companies, and everything else. We just had the luxury of having a studio and being able to record with, the rest of the 4 people that I wanted to work with most in the world, who we kind of met along the way in different ways. And we made a band, and we just decided to make a record that we would love. And, damn the torpedoes, sort of don't worry about whether anybody else likes it. We love it. And that's the most important thing. And the thing about COVID was that before COVID happened, Marty sent the cassette to me and to Tommy. I heard the cassette and I thought, this sounds so fresh. This sounds so right on right now, and in every way, sonically, musically, lyrically in particular, because a lot of the songs are about the state of the planet, about the, global warming, about all of these different things, which in 1989, Tommy said we didn't get any joy when we tried to shop the record. Well, we didn't try very hard, because actually we were all so busy. But the truth of it is that I think the record companies were afraid of what we were putting out there, because it wasn't just the usual kind of generic stuff. It was quite pointed. There's a song called Big House, which is one of the featured tracks. There's a great video of it. And it's all about, do you give a damn about what's going on? So like we're all up in a big house partying while the rest of the world is drowning in garbage and filth, So this was 30 years ago. And we just felt that lyrically and in every way, the songs sounded right up to date, right on point. And that's been borne out over the last 12 months or so, the reactions that we've had online from people. And then COVID came along, and that was really the extraordinary piece of luck for us, because it meant that we really had no other option but to work together, and we had such a great time finishing this record. I mean, I think it was one of the, for me, it got me through COVID, it was, creativity is the way out, always. And what was lovely is that the record as it is now, this record, which has just been released in Japan, with a fantastic review in a 18-page review in the biggest kind of AOR magazine and stuff. The great thing about it is that it seems to exist in 2 time frames. Yes, it's absolutely of its time in 1989, and yet it's also absolutely current, because 3 or 4 of the tracks are of now. So that's the extraordinary thing about this unique record, you know, and love it or hate it, there's nothing like it around, you know. It's really quite amazing. The whole story is quite bizarre. But the best thing of all is that we're all together again. And, you know, Judy, thank you. You've provided another reunion for all of us, you know, after many months of
True.
going
Yeah.
through the
Yeah.
same thing. You know?
All right, Jeff, let's hear a little from you. How do you feel about this whole thing, the vinyl?
You talking to me?
Yeah, Jeff.
Okay. Well, I was going to say, I think I'm having a little technical issue because every time I talk while somebody else is talking, you can't hear me. So apart from that, with
We
me
can hear you.
and all that. But I was just going to say, I feel a little bit like Spinal Tap when you held up that CD saying we're being released in Japan and it cut to the
Exactly.
mallet. But I think this is all great. I mean, this stuff was really good back when we did it, and it wasn't in vogue. Of course, you know, record companies are afraid of their own shadow. So anything that's not, you know, in the little narrow circle there, they're not going to really, you know, they'll pay you lip service, and that's about it. But we were really pleased with this. And like Frank said, I mean, we finished it and we didn't really shop it that much. We shopped it a little bit and everybody kind of went their separate ways. And then all of a sudden, cut to 30 years later, I can't believe it's been 30 years.
Yeah. Where did it go?
Yeah, I know. And to have, I mean, this is no secret. Some of those tracks came from cassette. And if you didn't tell that to anybody, they wouldn't know. It sounds so great. I always kid and say we should get what was the cassette, Maxell? We should get a sponsorship from Maxell or something.
Right on.
That held up pretty well on cassette. So I know
That's
some.
down to Tommy. Tommy, you know, I don't mind him being here while I say Tommy's sounds are absolutely incredible and they stood the test of time. And to be listened to 30 years later in such adverse circumstances and to sound so good that you would never know that it was straight off a cassette is pretty remarkable. That's a remarkable achievement in itself, you know.
Poor Marty had to go buy a cassette to get this.
Cassette player.
Yamaha. So we need a Yamaha endorsement as well. You know, Yamaha cassettes.
I thought somebody else mixed it. I didn't actually. I thought it sounded so good. I thought maybe you got somebody else to do it. But you know, I think the thing was too is that we had worked together with a lot of different artists. You know, 4 other different artists, and we wanted to do something that, you know, that we liked. And so it was all in our spare time at that particular, you know, period of time. So and it was music that, you know, that we thought was, you know, relevant and different. And so, you know, that's how it kind of happened, you know, and then we all went separate ways, you know. But
Also, I think what was really good is that when we went back into the studio last year during COVID, and nobody wanted to be near anybody. We did, what did we do? 2, 3 from scratch?
Yeah,
pretty much, yeah.
just using the original vocals from 1989, but everything else was new.
And then we remixed 1 or 2. But the newer stuff, I was quite surprised how it blended in with the stuff that we did 30 years ago, because I didn't know how it was going to turn out, and it actually turned out really well. I mean, Can't Let Go, I thought turned out really fantastic.
Mhm.
And by the way, is the new mix on the CD there? It is, right?
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, I sent it to Japan, and Toshi said he would put it in, and I think it's there. I haven't heard it. I haven't heard it yet.
Yeah, I don't have the CD yet, so I don't know.
I'll bring it to you. I think Marty and Elizabeth might have them. You know,
I got it.
Hey, Elizabeth, tell everybody a little bit about the vibe in Laurel Canyon in 1989 and how the whole thing came about. I think that's an interesting story, and you lived it. You know, you
Wonderful
were there.
documentary. There's a documentary on Netflix right now about Laurel Canyon.
Yeah.
Really lovely. And all the artists that were living there just before we got there, you know.
Yeah.
And it just was a hubbub, you know, just a center for music and talent. And we picked up on that vibe, certainly. There's always music going on. Always. What's up?
You saw the movie Laurel Canyon, right? That they did with
Yeah.
that kind of really sums up that time too. With
Oh.
what she played a great job as the producer. I can't. She was in Fargo. She's great. I can't remember her name, but
Frances McDormand?
that was a great movie, and that kind of depicted that era too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, music has a context, and for great music to happen, you need a great vibe and a great atmosphere. It's a bit like photography. You know, you're trying to get the shot, and the magic somehow has to happen. And we were living in a house that had an extension, which was the studio, which was built around 150-foot California redwood, a sequoia, and it was pretty damn vibey. You know, everybody who walked in that house started writing, picked up a guitar or sat down at the piano and started doing things. I mean, it was incredibly creative. It was every day we would have people coming in, walking through the house. I mean, it was mayhem. And we had people like the Sea Wind Horns recording up there, and I mean, just ridiculous. You know, Brian May and Elizabeth and I wrote a song there that became a massive hit in Europe, and you know, for Queen, was recorded by Queen, and you know, this was all part of the kind of daily. It was just grist for the mill. We weren't thinking, oh, this is going to be a big song. This is going to be, you know, we were just making music every day, just throwing it at the wall and hoping it was going to stick, you know, and particularly coming back to World Goes Round, this was such a labor of love for us because we were all working very focused, very commercially. We were all doing really well. We were doing different things. Elizabeth was working with John Denver and with Linda Ronstadt. She was touring the world with, you know, Nelson Riddle and all of that stuff. And Tommy was producing people left, right, and center. Jeff had just had a Grammy nomination for Piano in the Dark with Brenda Russell. You know, Marty was working with everybody, with Supertramp. And so, you know, it was all going really, really well. But we found something in each other because of the house and because of Laurel Canyon and the friendship that developed, where we just wanted to do something that was just a bit more creative, a bit more edgy, a bit more for us, you know, not just a sort of generic pop kind of album, you know. And there's a lot of pop in it. I have nothing against pop. I mean, listen, my stock in trade is pop, but I wanted to do something. I wanted all of us to do something which was a bit more meaningful and which had a bit of kind of substance to it. And the proof of that is that 30 years later, we're getting comments on the internet, on our website from kids of the new generation, you know, 20-year-olds saying, this is so on point. This is exactly how we feel, you know. And I make no secret, I'm 50 years older than these people, you know. So that's very satisfying because it means that the music has a kind of transcendental, a kind of reach, you know, that goes through the years. It's nothing to do with the passage of time or anything else. It's like, if it's good, it's there and it's golden and it lasts, you know. And I think that's what we have in this little Japanese CD here, you know, and the vinyl that's coming out. I'm so proud of the fact that the vinyl's coming out because we were of a generation who conceived of records as an A-side and a B-side, you know, as a piece of something you bought, like the Santana album with the beautiful artwork, you know, or the Beatles, you know, the Revolver record. It was something that you bought. It wasn't just the music. It was the whole artistic vibe of the artwork and the spirit of the record that came through the music as well. So, I mean, I must just tell a very quick story. We had a fantastic bunch of young'uns who were working on the artwork of the record, which we're thrilled with, all of which was based around the one photo session that we did as World Goes Round in 1989. Tommy, thank God, and his wife, Deanne, styled it and, you know, made this fabulous kind of collection of photos, which also came out of the vaults. I don't know. I mean, they had been completely lost in time. And that became the artwork of the album. And I was talking to Reese, who was the sort of top designer of this group of people who did the artwork. Jeff and I did a lot of work with these young'uns, you know, and at one more, and they were so cool and they were just so receptive and they were just drinking in everything we had to say. And at one point I said, well, we want it to be like side A and side B. And Reese kind of, I could see on the Zoom, he's going like, what do you mean side A and side B? You know, he couldn't conceive of the idea that there was one side of an album and another side of an album. So I had to explain it to him. And then they really got into it. And it was like, oh yeah, side A is this and side B is that, you know, but it's from another time, but it's also weirdly, incredibly up to date and on point, you know, so that's what I'm very proud of. That's, you know, we made some music that lasted 30 years at least, you know, so that's something to be proud of.
I think that's the key with music. If it's, you know, if it's timeless, if it stands the test of time, you know, and there's obvious artists that have done that. and they're still selling and being introduced. The point is being introduced to new generations. I think that's the key, and I think that was really one of our motivating factors, is trying to make something that would last. And it seems like we did that, and then when we picked up again and did the 3 new songs, and we remixed Once Around the Sun, it all kind of matched, because the songs were basically from that period of time as well, so I'm really proud of this record. I think it was really, especially under the circumstances that it was produced under. I think it was really something. I mean, we were sending, MP3s from all over, from Greece, from San Diego, Boston,
Modern world, we can all
Reseda, so it was a lot of fun, actually. I was going to work every day, even though there was nowhere to go. It was kind of cool. Yeah.
So, Tommy, how do you take this recording from a cassette to a CD to now a vinyl? How does that all get done?
Well, I mean, basically, I transferred it into what is digital Pro Tools. I EQ'd it and mastered it, and I took Marty's and I took it one step further, and we put it in some pretty expensive equipment, and we just basically made it louder. And because a lot of the records from that period of time, the technology was such that it wasn't as good as it is now. And so in the record business, the key is to make your record louder than everybody else's, but which is totally different from the film business. They want it as low as they can possibly get it. But yeah, I transferred it into Pro Tools, and we EQ'd it, and then we added the new songs, and we tried to match the sonics of the older stuff. I mean, the drum sounds and everything are of that time. We might have done it differently if we had done it now, but generally I think they work. I mean, I don't think, I mean, a lot of the sounds that are current today are from that period of time. They considered new sounds, but they're really from the 70s. I mean, and so it wasn't really that difficult. I mean, we basically pulled favors from everybody. We mixed those in really good studios, by the way. They were really good studios. They had top line equipment. It was like, I mean, we pulled a lot of favors, and they, and it turned out okay. I mean, all of it. The performances, I mean, are just amazing. I think all the way around. The arrangements and all of it, I think, are just first class, and so I'm really proud of it. So, and the songwriting is excellent. Yeah, it is excellent. So that's kind of how it happened, and so. The trick was to match the new stuff with the 30-year-old cassette, and it seems to match. It seems to match.
So now the vinyl, are we going to get to see the sneak peek of the cover? Who designed the cover? Is it colored? Is the vinyl actually colored? What do you guys kind of do? Can you spill, or do we have to wait till October?
There was talk of colored vinyl, but I don't think that's going to happen. The cover is basically the same, isn't it, Frank? I think the cover.
We don't have copies yet of the vinyl, but we will in the beginning of October. And essentially, it's a beautiful gatefold thing with lots of lovely photographs from the sessions, and it has a booklet, which is essentially the same as the booklet. With some differences, but the booklet from the CD, which has all the lyrics and it has the credits, and it pretty much kind of it's a nice thing to own. It's a beautiful thing, and I'm really looking forward to the vinyl. I know what my Christmas presents are going to be this year to various people. It's going to be very easy to just.
I do.
Love that.
vinyl's making such a comeback. Everybody's making
love
such a hoo-ha about vinyl, you know, and everybody's pulling out their old Torrens decks and they're kind of getting back into it. And it does sound different. You know, these CDs and digital is wonderful. I mean, it's marvelous, but there's a kind of lack of, Tommy can express this better than me, but there's a technical word called transience, which is basically the thump that you get in your chest from the bottom end of the record. And there's nothing that can duplicate vinyl for that. That's why DJs use vinyl when they're playing to 2,500 people and they're doing this business, you know, because it just pumps. And this is a pumping record. If you want to listen to it on vinyl loud, that's a good way to listen to it, you know.
You know, and by the way, the photography that's been used, that photo shoot was in a closet in my house.
Remarkable.
From the time we made that, which was what, it was 30
years ago.
30 years ago. You know, there was I think two or three different shoots. One of them Marty didn't even make, but because he was working at the time. Yeah. But they were actually, I had all the negatives. I had the negatives, and we went. It was quite a deal finding someone to transfer them, and I finally did it. It was another thing that happened during COVID, you know.
Well, and the vinyl is also mastered by the legendary Bernie Grundman, who's done every classic record around. So Tommy pulled some pretty serious favors to make this record as good as we could make it, you know.
If I could just pitch in on this whole vinyl thing, I got to say that when this all started, Frank was saying, well, you know, we need to have an album. And I'm going, what are you talking about? Albums don't exist anymore. I was like thinking modern. I'm going, no, dude, you put out a single every 3 months. We don't need an album. Nobody buys albums. That's not happening. And fortunately, you know, Frank kept on it. Like, well, wait a minute. We want an album. And I'm like, okay. And then we had to kind of comb through like, well, what else do we have? And that's when all of these other songs appeared, because we had them in various what am I looking?
Stages of development, yeah.
They had been kind of started and worked on a little bit, and then of course Jeff and Tommy had to go finish it all off. You know, send me files, and I'm doing guitar tracks over here and stuff. So, but the reason the album is coming out and the CD is coming out is because Frank was just insistent, you know, on like this. We have to have an album. It was pretty funny, but thank God you did. Thank God you kept on it, you know, because here we are.
I'm really glad. I have to say this. Can I just? I mean, I'm talking too much, and I want Elizabeth to talk too, and everybody else. But I just want to